morning with Betsey on Passionate World Talk Radio. I have a very special guest with me today that I am honored to have on. I followed Vince Zangaro since October 2017. I was very impressed of how he was taking care of his dad, and Vince reminded me of my son Josh. And I would like to welcome Vince to Chatting with Betsey. Hi, Vince.
Hey, Betsey. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. I forgot to mention Vince is also head of the Alzheimer's Music Fest, which you started. And what would you like to talk about this morning?
Well, yeah, I'm the Community Outreach Director of Dementia Spotlight Foundation, the founder of the Alzheimer's Music Fest. And I guess we're pretty open this morning. I guess everybody's kind of going through something we've never gone before. And I feel right now as caregivers and their loved ones and care partners are going through this, I think we've always felt some isolation, a lot of isolation. And now with what we're going through, we're feeling it even more from the outside world.
Yes.
With the way the world is right now with the coronavirus.
Yes, I totally agree. I feel like, as a former caregiver, I could do self-isolation standing on my head. When people abandon you, you do feel isolated. And I thought it was a very wise decision for the Alzheimer's Music Fest to be postponed to a later date.
Yeah, it was a hard one. I was already out in Tampa, but we were watching this very seriously. And I kind of of course I didn't realize this was going to happen. But, I brought that up several weeks before that it was going to affect the fest probably. And then, of course, we didn't see what was about to happen, of course. And so we really had to come together, Whitney Ullman, our CEO, and Gary Volk, our education director out there in Tampa. And we had to make a choice, and I think we made the right one. And it was weird, right when we made that decision, you saw so many businesses starting closing. More, I would say, New York, of course, where it's been really highly affected, and Washington and so forth. And then we were in Tampa, but it was starting to spread, of course, and the cases were going up, and we were leaving Georgia to Tampa. So I think we did the responsible thing, but look forward to throwing it when we find the right date, when we all kind of get through this unknown that we're living in right now.
Yes, I live in New Jersey, which the area I live in is I'm about a half an hour away from Staten Island, which is a borough of New York City, and New York was declared a hot spot for the corona-19 virus. And I heard on the news this morning, anyone even traveling through New York needs to quarantine themselves for 14 days. And they're also concerned about the people who go from New York to Florida every winter, taking the virus with them.
That's where we just had a conference call this morning. Gary's out there in Florida. I'm in Georgia, based in Georgia outside Atlanta. And, even seeing our case, this is, again, it's unknown. I think if everybody and, if our leaders do the right decision, close down for a few months and do it the right way, hopefully, hopefully in a month or two, maybe we can start slowly going back to normal. But we don't know that yet. And I think that worries and scares a lot of people. And I think we really just need to listen to our scientists on this.
Vince, how did you start the Alzheimer's Music Fest?
Well, I've been a musician my whole life, and so I do a lot of music growing up. I continue to play music, and so when I cared for my dad for 14 years. He was diagnosed at 62. I was 29 when I became his full-time caregiver. I like to say care partner, of course, because I think your partners in this with the folks that you care for. And there was nothing there. We went through the stage where we were pretty, we didn't know what was going on. We thought, we kind of lived in ignorance until it got a point where we didn't live in ignorance anymore. And I really use the word ignorance because I was very young. My grandfather had it, my dad's dad, but we didn't, we thought kind of like other people that it was just going to be memory issues. We didn't realize transitions were to come, where dad got less mobile and not able to feed himself and take a shower and clothe himself, and the verbal compromise. And I lost a lot of friends. I didn't handle things always so right. I was 29, 30, and my friends still wanted to be cool and make a lot of money, and so did I. And I had to veer in this whole different world of adulthood, and which I'm so glad. I thought that was a gift my dad gave me, that many of my friends my age did not understand what we were going through. And I was not great at communicating that. And even when I tried to communicate that, they didn't quite understand. It's no fault of their own. I think a lot of people go through this. It's not even the age. I think it's just, people don't realize what people go through with dementia and being a care partner for an extended period of time, what that can do to a family. Good in some ways, but also very hard in many ways. So people steer away from it and don't show up anymore. So I thought, well, hey, why don't I create something that'll bring a community together, since I've done music so long. And in 2012, I started planning the Alzheimer's Music Fest and was working with a small nonprofit. I didn't really like working with – I was trying to reach out to the larger nonprofits and just say it just was not for me. I didn't really know I wanted to help people right here and right now, and provide respite care and things that insurance, people don't realize insurance doesn't cover in many cases. And that's why we did it. We started that out, and then it just started growing from there. And now, in 2020, and now we hold 2 of them a year, and one in Tampa and one in Atlanta now, and we just partnered with Live Nation in Atlanta. So we're kind of pursuing the outcome after what we're going through comes, but that's where we're at today. And our main objective is to create awareness, education, resources right here, right now, really bring those resources to them, whether it's respite care, and then Atlanta we're able to partner with Kodak and bring medical equipment, because as many people know, when they go through this, or even if you have great insurance and your loved one has great insurance, they're not going to cover these things.
Right. I think what you're doing, Vince, I admire you so much. I think it's, wonderful, because you took a disease, which of course has negative effects on people, but it could also have positive, and you took a tragedy and turned it into a positive. And this is what I try to tell people. This disease can make or break you. It can make you a better person or a bitter person. It's our choice. And I so admired your journey with your dad, and you posting pictures and writing your story. It reminded me so much of Josh, my son, with his dad. And I love the picture that you have of you and your dad walking hand in hand.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I remember you saying that, you felt a little uncomfortable. And so did Josh, my son, felt uncomfortable holding his dad's hand, but then he became used to it. And
yeah, it just
I know it made
normal.
Josh a better person. Yes.
No, yeah, I mean, and actually that touch, and, especially when you get through this, as and you've had great loss and gained through this, I know that, and we've went through similar experiences. I know hospice and other things like that, and, once you start doing that, you rely more on almost a sense of touch, a sense of being there instead of the verbal communication. So even kind of holding someone's hand, or just laying your hand on their shoulder where they can see you, or having direct eye contact with them where you're not overshadowing the person that you love and caring for. I think a lot of that is nonverbal way of caring. And I think, believe it or not, I think many caregivers become experts in that without even knowing it.
Yes. I've learned so much from the difference, actually, between Matt's mom and dealing with Matt. When I first moved in with Matt's mom, we didn't know she had dementia. And then when we found out, it was like, I was a licensed practical nurse. I didn't know anything. We weren't taught anything about Alzheimer's. So I say my mother-in-law took me to Alzheimer's school. And there wasn't much information 20 years ago like there is now. So, yes, I'm sure it had to be frightening for you as a 29-year-old.
Well, I look back at now, and in a weird way, I look at these loved ones caring for each other in their elder years, and that's got to be so hard. Like I feel at least, at the point where I was at, it was very different. Like I had to grow up real fast, but it was also like it was a good thing. I don't know if I'd be alive today because I was kind of, I was a rock and roll guy, and I was experimenting with, drugs and drinking too much alcohol and, and all that kind of stuff that not every, musician does, but I think we all have our phases. Most of us have our phases in that, and enjoying that lifestyle. And I truly think that saved my life. And I don't think I'd be with my wonderful wife today if it wasn't for my dad. I had major commitment issues, Betsey. Major commitment issues. And I think my dad gave me the capability to find love within myself, in return being able to give that to him and to my wife.
Yes, I have found with my experience, especially with Matt more than my mother-in-law, because Matt was my husband, of, that unconditional love. And Josh also, experienced this. You're showing love to cannot do anything for you in return, and you don't expect it. You do it out of pure love, and you learn things about yourself. And I found myself with Matt's journey. I really did. I was this quiet, shy little girl, Vince, from New Jersey.
Yeah, you're not that anymore, Betsey, and I love it.
No, no, and Alzheimer's, the way we were treated in the medical community because Matt was young, the doctor's not realizing, yes, you can have Alzheimer's at 56 years old. It made me so angry, I had to put aside my own insecurities. I just went in my car and I started doing videos. Hoping somebody would hear me. And eventually, thank God, Jeannie White heard me, and the rest is history. But, it's just, this is why I do this show. I want to share my experience with people to help people. Not that I'm an expert. I just want to help people. And I love when people such as yourself come on and share your story, because we all learn from each other. And you're just a great role model of turning a negative into a positive. Look, the Alzheimer's Music Fest is phenomenal. And I just was I can't help but say it was inspired and, touched by your story. Would you like to share how you met your wife, Amy?
Yeah, actually, I had some rest. This was one of the last times we knew Dad was not going to be able to go out to Jersey anymore. That's where a lot of my family lives, out in Jersey, in Camden. And so before that happened, I needed to straighten some stuff up. I wasn't doing right. I couldn't work anymore full time because of being a care partner. I had to figure some stuff out. And his Jersey family, which I call my Jersey family, which is my Aunt Jidge and my Aunt Phil and my Uncle George and my Uncle Chick and Aunt Dee and Fran. Fran's no longer with us, God bless her. But we knew this was going to be the last time. So my Uncle George picked him up. And so my dad was out there for 2 months saying kind of goodbyes. We knew he probably wouldn't be in Jersey again. He was around longer than that, but we knew they were getting older. His brother, Uncle Chick, Frank, was showing signs of Alzheimer's. So they were going to have to kind of take over that part in Jersey. And my Aunt Phil and Chick and George, they're in their 70s. And so we knew this was going to be the last part. So I went out. Some people were getting me out of the house one time, and we went to this crazy pub I never go to, and my wife picked me up at the pub. That's how I met her. And, and be announced that, Amy, let's just say in kind of the music age, I got to sow my wild oats, if you will, doing kind of what I did my whole life. And I'm not proud of it, but I went through major,
Right.
kind of self-absorbed actions in my life, and it's not something I'm very proud of. I'll be honest with you, but it's something that did happen to me, so I try to take anything that did happen to me and try to relay that on future life and not make those same mistakes. And I was also dating someone else at that time, and so everybody was walking away. They just didn't realize, like, Dad was my first priority, so when he came back in town, Amy was there, and we became really good friends, and believe me, it was hard. I would not, she was amazing. She was a school teacher, so she had this empathy about her and this caring, this nurturing. And I was still trying to figure out that. And this was probably 6 years into Dad's diagnosis. And we had our battles. I mean, I would kick her out of the house, Betsey. I'm like, I can take care of everything on my own. I don't want, I would just, and I was still figuring it out because I didn't find our place yet. I did not find Dad's and my place yet. There would be really bad days where you got no sleep for, weeks on end. We were up and down. Dad would be, he went through a combative stage. And, trying to figure that out. And, finally, Amy looked at me, and I tried to do it so many times, and Amy looked at me, and she was like, Vince, basically, and I don't know if this is verbatim, but she was like, I'm not going anywhere. She's like, I love you. You're going to figure this out. And she was the one that stuck around. I tried to push so many people away. It was not just people were leaving me. I pushed so many people away. And it was because of her finding love in me. I think and my dad finding love in me, I fell in love within myself. And kind of like you, I found myself during this. But we had some major hard times. But now it's weird because Amy and I, not saying we don't get in little arguments here and there, but we have such open, honest communication that's very fast. Now it's kind of like in 5 minutes, if we're in a fight, we talk about it. And we all go, oh, I did this, I can do this better, I can do this better. And to be honest with you guys, since we got through that, I think it's made, I mean, Amy is my girl. That's who I'm going to be with. She's my partner for the rest of my life. There's no doubt in my mind. And I don't think I would ever be able to do that if it wasn't for my dad and the situation we were in growing up and finding that love and commitment within loving something more than you love yourself.
That is so beautiful. How long have you been married?
We are going on, we've been together since, 12 or whatever. So we're looking at, we're about 8 years. And I think married for about 6 or 7, I believe. She's going to get mad at me. I know the anniversary, I just can't do the math off the top of my head right now. But I always kind of look up when we first met and started dating, and we've been together for probably about right at that 9-year mark.
That's wonderful. I know from my own experience, Vince, and I have to say, God bless Amy, because that is a special person who is on who has Alzheimer's, and to stick by them is one of a kind. A lot of relationships, a lot of marriages fall and crumble with this disease, and they don't have to. This is the time for people to come together. I know with Matt's mom, our marriage was strained because I knew his mom had a problem, and Matt didn't want to face it, so we would be arguing all the time. And unfortunately, Matt made me the enemy. And then after his mom died and things started getting back to normal, Matt was diagnosed. And, Matt realized that he was not so swift during those years, and he apologized for it. So when he was diagnosed, I still had this resentment that I had to let go of. And I recommend, for any couple, whether you're married or not, and you have a parent with any type of dementia, go for counseling to help you deal with that and not make each other the enemy. Did you and Amy go for counseling of any kind?
No, we didn't. One, we didn't have insurance. We lost our insurance to this. We all had to kind of do. She had to go to kind of private pre-K and not do, I guess what we'd say, like Cherokee County and actually being in the system of the state, just because at that point, if, say, my back got hurt or I got a cold, you don't have a day off in this. And I would always say I was kind of the quarterback and Amy was my defensive line when it came to Pops. You don't have a day off. So we had to make sure that we had a schedule that we could still make our rent and mortgage. And believe me, my dad and I lost, we had to walk away from a house. We had to figure everything out. And, and I was making pretty decent money at that time, and I had to figure out. And through that time, before even my dad, I, lost, I left my job to start a business, losing that, and then I got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So it was really hard to get off my feet because I couldn't leave him alone at that point. And then again, at that point, there was not a lot of knowledge about this out there. There wasn't hardly anything. I mean, this was 2004, 2005. You would see, commercials for the Alzheimer's Association doing walks, but I would call the 1-800 hotline, and I know they try to do their best. I don't have anger, but I didn't really get anything out of that. So, again, why I kind of, started the fest, and then I formed with Whitney and Gary, and we're doing Dementia Spotlight Foundation now. And, we didn't have that time. Our counseling was talking with each other, like sitting there sometimes in tears. Like no one's seen my vulnerable side as much as my wife has. I kind of was raised by a man that was very stoic. Always showed my feelings, but Amy has really seen and now I'm an open book, of course, after this, but, Amy's, she saw the vulnerable side, and I remember when my dad had his first seizure, caused by Alzheimer's, and he started getting seizures, and I remember that's when I felt like I knew she was my person, because what happened was, I used to go to my mom. That was my safe place, and, bless my mom, she passed away pretty earlier on at 55 before any of this happened. She had rheumatoid arthritis and had massive heart attacks. I think they were over-medicating her, and at that point, they probably were. We didn't have the kind of the pandemic we have right now with opioids and things like that. Doctors just kind of gave them out like Tic Tacs at that point, especially for, rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune deficiencies. And I remember the only place I wanted to be was in Amy's lap crying. And, it was such a weird thing to see Dad seizure. I didn't know what it was at the beginning. We got, that happened about twice a year after that. But I was in such tears that I couldn't help him. I just had to stand by him while the doctors came in, and that's when I knew this was my person, because I felt safe. She was my home. I realized no matter where we were going to be at, she was going to be my home.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. I told Matt, I get emotional here. I remember one day, Matt was crying, and Matt never cried. Matt never was one to show emotion, even before Alzheimer's. And I remember saying, Matt, what's the matter? Why are you crying? And he said, I hate the way I am. I hate this disease. And I said, Matt, I love you. And Josh loves you. And I understand why you hate this disease. We hate it too, but don't hate yourself, because it's not something you choose to have. You didn't want this. And I think it's beautiful, Vince. And I've even, I'm so proud of my son for a man to show emotion and compassion is a beautiful way to be. And I wish more people would raise their sons to show compassion, that it's okay. And it doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. It's a strong man who can cry and say, you know what, this sucks. I need help. I think that's a wonderful thing.
I think,
it takes the tragedy.
Well, especially when you go through something like this, I think, the depth's always been there, and I think that comes from my mom. But I think you try to fit in with society, right? When you're younger. It's just part of it. You try to be kind of the herd. if you will, for lack of a better word. And, somewhere I, lost my freak flag, which I'm very proud of having my freak flag and how I think. And maybe it's on a deeper basis that people don't understand and they want to talk about football and talk about sports, which is great. Go ahead and do that. That's not me. It's not my thing. And I think he gave me when I started, I think it was a few years before we started seeing each other on Facebook, but I just started writing a journal on Facebook. And it was many years, I think, before a lot of people did, and I don't know why that is or I didn't see it. It was just I would just take videos all the time. Then Amy was around. I'm like, I'm going to talk about this. I'm just going to talk about this. I wasn't a big Facebook guy before that and this journey. I just wasn't really into putting all my stuff out there. And then when we started doing that, you did slowly start seeing. We weren't trying to get anything. I just kind of used it. I thought Facebook was my journal. I didn't know Facebook was going to become like a Twitter or whatever we have today. I didn't know that. I thought it was just somewhere I could write because I write. I write songs and original music, and that's what I do. I write. And, it's just I thought that was the way to have my therapy. That was my counseling, right? Like I was like, let's put a message in a bottle and send it to me. I almost thought about it. Let's put it in a bottle and throw it out there. Maybe someone will get something out of it. You're going to get something out of it because same thing with the fest. I created the fest not necessarily I wanted to help people, but not necessarily I wanted to build a community that I could join in because I didn't know any other families with dementia or Alzheimer's. I knew my family. I didn't know any other families. So I thought that would be just as good for me to do something good that I could help build a community that I could rely on. And it worked. And then when we got into this, it did become more about other families. Now, of course, my dad transitioned. His birthday is April 1st. And he died 10 days after his 76th birthday. That's coming up. It's 2 years. It does not feel like 2 years, does it, Betsey? Does not feel like 2 years since he's been gone. So, anyway. So that's when, now, like, joining forces with Whitney and Gary LeBlanc, and, I've known these people forever. This is before we really worked together. We were just friends. We went through the same stuff. They were part of the people I met through, putting it out there and starting the fest. And I always wanted to work and make sure that we could do respite and nonprofits, and they were on the same level with me, where they wanted education, which was a part I was missing, that, they were really good at the education part, which I'm getting good at now by just, hanging out with them. And at first I didn't want education with my father when I was caring. I was like, I figured this out on my own. I don't need someone preaching at me, telling me what to do. That's not what they do. They just show you things that they've gone through and learned through, show you different dementias and the diagnosis issues and even the death certificates. Dad, I didn't have to fight too hard, but I had to fight to make sure Alzheimer's was on that death certificate when he was in home hospice. And that's very important that was on there because our numbers aren't right. Our numbers.
Yeah, I made sure. Yeah, I made sure it was on that too. I told the doctor I want Alzheimer's on there.
Well, it's a depressing thing to think about, but I was thinking about that. I'm like, this man has given 14 years, and through me, Mia as his vessel, has shared his story. I'm going to make sure, and he touched a lot of people. And I was like, I'm going to make sure that we get these figures right. I'm mad about the figures. I know they're not correct. And even though they say, four-fifth leading causes, whatever, it's way more than that. Because people also don't realize this is not just what you touched base on before. This is not just an elder disease. And, people are getting diagnosed in their 30s. It's a small percentage, but 40s, childhood, you got now football players with what they're going through and boxers and head injuries. And, this is something, and, I probably, both my dad's brother, his two sisters, both have dementia and Alzheimer's. This is a family disease. This is also genetic. So I have, it's very relevant in my dad's side. So I probably have the gene. And so right now they're not doing enough testing right now with that. And to be honest with you, at first I wanted to find out if I did have it. But now I'm kind of like talking to people now that I work with, like Dr. Hill at Emory, there's a doctor there, and other people. They're just not close enough to really pinpointing what if those even genetic tests work. You can find a gene, but are you going to get it? What nationality are you? We're just kind of far from that still with dementia. So, it's one of those things that we're finally getting, not even kind of getting there. I mean, with the diagnosis, whether you have Lewy body, frontal lobe, vascular, Alzheimer's. People don't realize, dementia as a whole is not the disease. It's everything that under the disease. Like, that's just kind of the umbrella, right?
Right.
Of the symptom,
That's
and then
right.
the disease is the underlying. They're still not great at that, and that's frustrating that you can't get. Normally, and I talk to so many people, Betsey, I'm sure you have, that they're like, oh, they diagnosed my dad with dementia. They diagnosed my wife, my mom. And we know, what does that mean? What kind of dementia? What kind of medications are for that dementia? You don't necessarily want to give Aricept and Namenda to someone with Lewy body dementia. You don't know how they're going to, so we're still so far. And I think, yes, it's getting more, I guess, awareness now, but we're so far. We're so far. And I don't want people to be doom and gloom. There is hope in all this. I think, do I see a cure in my future? No. But do I see better genetic testing? Yes. With better genetic testing, do I see more preventative measures, maybe to hold off the disease that's better than the Aricept? Remember, yes, I do see that. I hope so.
And more education. Yeah, there's more awareness. Matt's primary doctor, I think about, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, started to pre-screen for dementia during the clock. And I said to him, well, too bad you didn't have this 9 years ago. And his attitude was like, well, Betsey, there's nothing I could have done for men anyway.
Nope.
I mean, that's their attitude. There's nothing I could have done.
But you could have. I mean, there's, it's different. But, I mean, medically or maybe with pills, maybe not. You could have got Aricept, Namenda, and I think it did help my dad because he did have Alzheimer's. He was diagnosed correctly, which we're very fortunate at. But at the same time, you can hold it off a little bit, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. This is what people don't realize that people do. And I went through the same thing of going, there's a miracle out there. I'm going to use coconut oil all the time, which, hey, dude, coconut oil is great for everything. Go for it. Use it.
I use that too.
Yeah, I'm sure you went through the same thing I did. You're looking for the magic thing that's going to make something sparkle, and then your brain starts believing it's working. And sometimes, coconut oil does work for some people maybe, but it's not going to work for long. It's what it is. And again, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but I think the best thing that we can do as a society is really care for our loved ones that are going through this, because I do think, you say Alzheimer's, but I don't see faces. I see ads with balloons and things, and it sort of ticks me off. That's not what it is. Yeah. There's beauty towards it, but there's a lot of hurt and pain, and there's a lot of people that are facing it. And, to feel hopeful, I think it's all of us coming together as a group. When we first started talking, I'm like, dude, we're family. Everybody that has gone through this, we've never even met in person, I don't think. And have we met in person? Yeah. And,
we haven't.
Yeah, you're instant family. You're just instant family when you're going through this, because no one's going to know what you're going through except for those that have. And that's with many cases in life. But the problem with Alzheimer's and dementia is I just don't think people think it's a big enough deal unless they live with it. It's very in the culture we live in. I don't know why, but I think it's kind of pushed aside a little bit. Again, it's getting better, but people don't know. You can't tell these things by the commercials that you see. You can't tell what's really happening. They've gotten better in some movies. I think they're trying, but they're not really showing the full scope of what this is. And it's really just a family disease, and I see so many families get broken up by this. I see so many, just like you said, couples, friendships. It's one of those things people on the outside can't look in and understand. They can't, and we have not as a community yet maybe provided for that, or maybe people don't have empathy enough to come look in and not just see what they see and not see what other people see. I have empathy for everybody because of that. So I can see someone with MS or with any kind of disease, and I go on and research as much as I can. I ask questions to them, and I talk to them about it. And I think people really I think people really love that I actually can't give a crap. And I want to be educated on anything my friends or family are going through, anything that touches me. I want to be educated on it. And I guess
that's how I feel. That's how I was. 20 years ago with Matt's mom, I called out the Alzheimer's Association. The internet wasn't as big 20 years ago. Even with Matt 10 years ago with early onset, there wasn't much information. And if it wasn't for his family history, I would have believed the doctors that it was depression when it wasn't. I mean, of course he was depressed. I mean, who wouldn't be in this situation? And Matt was on Namenda and the Exelon patch. And, I had to learn about it. And what I learned the most, Vince, was when I joined Facebook in 2014, I started joining all these groups because it's, caregivers who are learning from caregivers. That's how I met Marsha Burr. I met groups. And I just learned so much from other people. And I think now it might be changing a little bit. Here in New Jersey, we have caregivers to caregivers from Rutgers Behavioral Institute. My neurologist, his wife is a geriatric psychiatrist, and he told me that she's now focusing on and reaching out and preparing the family for what they're going to go through.
Repeat that last part. You broke up a little bit. I'm sorry.
The family, the doctor's wife is also a doctor, and she's concentrating on the family.
Family
members.
I think people are truly getting that. I think that is, and kind of with the support groups, it's the same thing. Now, through what we're going through, we're doing virtual online sports groups through the Zoom conference app. And we started it on Tuesday, and we were going to start it on April, right after the fest, but that got canceled, of course, with what we're going through right now. We were like, okay, let's get on this and start it. And it was amazing to see how many people came. And, and now we're going to do 2 a week. And I think that's vital at this time. You need to communicate. You need to think. You need to learn from each other. And I've always believed that you learn just as much from you probably learn more from other people going through this disease than you can learn from anywhere else.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. I did post about the free webinar.
Yeah, and then we got Gary Zuna's free webinar, which will be good. So we're doing the best we can with the space we're given right now. And I'm really excited about it. It's such a hard thing. I don't feel like I'm excited about it, but, it's another tool people can have, because I know even without this going on, I know the last few years where I was caring for Dad, his temperature wouldn't regulate right, so it'd have to be. And I've met some people that go through that with Alzheimer's, but like if you would take him out and it was just 80 degrees, he could have a heat stroke and pass out like instantly. And we had to be very careful, and he was unmobile, so we had to. And I don't think people talk enough about that, because I've seen that quite a bit with Alzheimer's through my years. That doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens. And I couldn't get out to groups. I couldn't get out to, caregiver cafes. I couldn't do that. So I think, Gary kind of really pioneered this with the Dementia Mentors program that he has for people living with dementia. And then I kind of wanted to push it even further and go with the people that, for care partners and caregivers. And I think it's a really good outlet. The hard part is some people are technology savvy, so I'm trying to work with them on that. Once you get it, it's a fairly easy program. I mean, you just press on it and enter. But some people still kind of get scared of the technology. But I think it's such a great resource to have if you can't get out of the house in any time, because as care partners and people, living in the dementia Alzheimer's community, we can't always jump and get out of the house and go to a support group. It doesn't happen.
That's true. Very true. I know I couldn't.
Yeah, you got to plan a month and a half and pay respite care, which you're not getting. You know, insurance isn't covering in most parts unless maybe you have hospice or something like that, but in most parts they don't cover. And so you can't even do that. And to be honest with you, do you really want to do that when you do have maybe 4 or 8 hours of respite? Is that what you really want to be doing? Maybe, maybe not. That's what I did on my time off, but I was doing the music festival. So that's what I geared most of my time off of, playing in the band. So I just think it's important that everybody has just as many resources as we can do out there. And I really believe in doing it for free, you know. I mean, the fest is how we make raise the money for our respite through a program in Florida and Georgia. And, you know, hopefully we get resumed here in the next few months and we can raise more money for those programs. But right now we've always been in this together. But at the same time, where we're at right now, you know, even more so at this point. And then I hope when this passes and we figure this out somehow, that we all stay the same way and stay kind. Because as you can see on Facebook, people, I even wrote a comment about it today, like, people are just yelling. And I have my political views. I watch the news way too much, which you probably shouldn't be doing right now, especially if you have a loved one living with dementia. Probably should not have that news on it. It gets very stressful. But
yeah.
You know, I'm just getting sick of people sharing Facebook crap that is not true, and they're not reading, they're not looking at the news, they're reading maybe things that aren't true, and they're getting mad at each other again, because right now this is a human race thing, man. This ain't a politics thing.
Right. People need to chill out, that's for sure. I mean, I, for one, I'm enjoying being home, getting my rest that I so desperately needed. Josh is not happy. There's no sports. He can't go to the movies. He can't hang out with his friends. But it's not permanent. That's what I keep telling him.
Yeah, it's not. And we'll get through that. You know, the thing about, you know, America and the world, you know, I mean, I truly believe that people, you know, the majority of people are kind. And I think we'll all, you know, just like we always do, we'll all come together. And then probably about a year and a half of that, we'll all start being buttholes at each other again.
Yeah, that's true.
Not all of us, you know, I'm exaggerating, but, you know, go back to the way everybody was before. But, you know, that's what I kind of look at this thing. You know, I'm nervous. You know, I'm nervous about it. You know, I think everybody is. But going through that is, you know, people losing jobs and things like that. You know, it's weird, right? Because this is so much that people living with dementia have already gone through or are going through on a daily basis, is what the rest of the world.
That's right.
And I don't ever want to say that on Facebook or something like that. But
how can people get in touch with you? Can they contact you through your Facebook page? And
you can
Alzheimer's Music Fest page?
Yeah, you go to DementiaSpotlightFoundation.org. That's where we have most of our resources listed. And then also they can feel free to email me at Vince@DementiaSpotlightFoundation.org.
Okay.
And then also I'm always good with anything. I mean, you'll get all of our numbers and everything off those places. And they can always, you know, look us up on social media.
Okay. Thank you, Vince, so much for coming on my show and sharing your experience with me and talking about various topics. I appreciate you coming on, and I hope you could come on again sometime.
Anytime, Betsey. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Folks, you heard Vince Zangaro, lovely person, and I just want to say Vince called me 2 times after Matt had passed to see how I was doing, and that really deeply touched me. And I really do post about the Alzheimer's Music Fest on my own page and on Kick Alzheimer's Ass and the Dementia Spotlight Foundation. Those are the only 2 groups that I really promote on my page because I love what they stand for. I love what they're doing. It's not about making profit. It's about helping people. And I suggest that you check out the page Alzheimer's Music Fest. You can follow me on my page, Betsey Wurzel, Wurzel. I post about, I share Vince's post about the information. And you're welcome to join the hashtag Kick Alzheimer's Ass movement page, where we accept people from all dementias, all walks of life. You don't have to be a caregiver if you just want to be educated. Vince is also a member of the Kick Alzheimer's Ass movement. And shine bright, folks. Be the light that you are. This is Betsey Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsey on Passion World Talk Radio. Jeannie White is producer. Thank you, Jeannie, for producing and writing the blog. And thank you to Lillian Caldwell for this wonderful radio station that gives people a chance to see all. You'll hear from me next time. Bye-bye.